Hello and welcome back to Sticky Trigger Chat. My name is Crinji. I'm joined on Skype by writer and video producer for Sticky Trigger, Sean Fox. Thank you so much for joining me, Sean.
Yeah, no problem, Jack.
Almost said Fox. That was my bad. Good stuff. Off to a good start. We're jumping into a story today about Devolver Digital's first ever E3 press conference. It was reported probably a bit over a week or so at this point now that Devolver Digital will have an E3 press conference for the first time ever, actually. Even though we still haven't got any details on the time or date, I thought that I'd kind of bring in one of the Sticky crew, never saying that one again, to kind of discuss what this means and what kind of relevance press conferences hold at this point. What do you think they're really going to be trying to spruik at potentially at this press conference?
Well, as far as the games they've got, to plug are concerned, it's mostly Ruiner, Ape Out, and Serious Sam's Bogus Detour. So they've got a couple of games, but they're all actually like the top-down shooters. So there's not a whole lot of variety for them to showcase. So I think, if anything, what they're showcasing is more of just the general welcome and introduction of independent games into E3. Because, we've seen in the past, Microsoft and Sony try to advocate for independent publishers and distributors, through their own consoles and products without ever giving them actually much of an ability to showcase.
I think another interesting example would be the PC gaming show, where they kind of showed off a fairly decent kind of variety of games, but just not in a very good way. Like the PC gaming show was kind of terrible. The Square Enix conference, I think, that happened that same year, the first time the PC gaming show came on, was also terrible. Like, by kind of getting back into this mode of terrible, to an extent, terrible E3 press conferences. And do you think that with Devolver Digital's sort of tone online that they might fall into that trap, or do you think that they're going to pull off a show that really impresses people?
It's an interesting question, because as far as pulling off a show is concerned, it's something that we mostly expect from major labels. We don't really expect a small indie company to go ahead and know how to do that, especially when Devolver Digital is known for setting up booths outside of conventions, being part of the conventions without actually being part of them. So it'll be interesting to see if they can transition into that, and even then it'll be interesting to see what the result of that transition is, because so many of these major titles flop terribly in front of everyone at E3, and others get huge rounds of applause and cheers. So I'm hoping they can go for the latter.
An interesting point you raised there about the big names are usually the people that the companies that pull these off. Sony, Microsoft, Activision, EA. One big name that hasn't had an E3 press conference for a while has been Nintendo. Nintendo kind of up and left and went to Nintendo Directs and had much more control over the message they were wanting to send to consumers. Do you think that that Devolver Digital is kind of missing the point, that they would have been better off pursuing that sort of outlet?
Well, not really, because I feel like they're already pursuing that on their own behalf. You're just doing that as their own kind of business model as is. So if anything, people have always kind of viewed independent games as being part of the mainstream, but without ever seeing it actually identifying on the part of mainstream video games and studios. So I feel like they're not really missing out. It's not like they're going to stop doing what's already made them successful. I think it's just going to, give them a much larger audience to apply to. I mean, that said, there have been so many people who've reacted to Devolver Digital being announced as part of this year's E3, and they've gone, who the hell are Devolver Digital? But anyone who really owns a PC and has, a taste for independent games has probably played a game by, or published by, or developed by Devolver Digital. So
there's much more to be gained there in terms of brand recognition and brand perception. Well, maybe not so much brand perception. Brand perception could be the one part where they fall down, right? Where it could be make or break, but the awareness of Devolver Digital no doubt is going to increase after this, right?
Yeah, exactly. Whether that they fall flat on their faces, or everyone comes out just going, wow, I'm so glad Devolver Digital was there. Everyone's going to know who they are, for better or worse.
Something to look forward to, for sure. Sean, thank you so much for coming on to chat with me about Devolver Digital's E3 press conference.
No problem. Thanks again.
If you want to see more Sticky Trigger content, be sure to check out our YouTube channel at youtube.com/StickyTrigger. Check out the website at stickytrigger.com and chat to us on Twitter, where you'll find us as @StickyTriggerAU. But for now, that's all from us. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you soon.